Hey guys, getting here. So I'm going to be doing another video about basically how manga is beating the shit of the comics in sales right now. So obviously I've made numerous videos about comics and what's going on with them, what's going on with Marvel and DC, and why their sales are shrinking, and why their books are going down, and basically what's going on with the comic industry. So um, I like looking at articles like this. This just came out that My Hero Academia dominates the U.S. graphic novel charts for 2020. So for the looks of this chart, and I have seen another chart for this too, of based on the comic sales, and they're not looking good. Most of them, from what I know, a lot of the books that Marvel has come out with, they're all number ones, and most of them have not done well at all. Like most of them have just after the first issues come out, they have not made any money. Like, you look at the first issue of Spider-Man or the first issue of X-Men, like those books have only succeeded because of issue one, which that happens a lot in comics. There's some comics where people may pick it up just to try it out, and then if whether they don't like it, they'll just drop the book completely, and that's happened a lot with comics. Um, but before I get to that, I'm going to just go through most of the books that are here on this list. So basically, from the looks of this article, My Hero is number one for volume one, and then number two is volume two. Demon Slayer is number three, and then number seven is Uzumaki hardcover, which I have not read the series. Heard a lot of people say it's really good. And then obviously My Hero again, Demon Slayer volume two, and then Hakusho, which is a basketball anime, um, or volleyball, I think. Sorry, I always get them mixed up. I apologize. And then Toilet Bond, um, or Bound, sorry. My Hero again, Tokyo Ghoul, and then My Hero and Demon Slayer. And then obviously at number 19 is Promised Neverland. Um, so yeah, so it looks like from the Japanese side, from Japan's side, My Hero is number one right now. That's looking pretty good. Um, and then if you look at here, where it's considered in the English graphic novels area, which I'm going to get to that in a minute, but let's just go through this list. So My Hero is number one. Strange Planet is number two. And then it just goes on with My Hero being number three, Demon Slayer, and then Strange Planet number seven, and then My Hero again, and then Uzumaki is at number 9, and then March is at 11, and then Snug is at number 12. Watchmen's at number 15, which is really interesting because Watchmen is a really old DC book. I'm surprised it's actually doing it, but then again, it got that HBO series, so I can imagine why it's doing pretty well. Um, My Hero again, Hakusho, and then Toilet Bond, and then My Hero Tokyo Ghoul. So, from the looks of this list, and from the other articles I've seen based on this, manga is doing well. Manga is basically kicking the comic book industry's ass right now, and this is a good sign for anime fans and manga fans, because I know we've waited for this for many years to see how it's going to conquer the comic book industry. And some people may say, oh, but that's going to be short lived. Comics are going to go back to normal again. I don't really think so. They have not done really well these past years, man. They have not done well at all. I mean, if you take a look at some of the shit that they've done with Captain Marvel, if you look at some of the stuff that DC's been doing, the way that they killed off Vertical Comics, how that got shut down because of SJW, and how they hired artists and writers that don't have a background in comics. That's what killed that. I mean, there's just been many, many business practices that these companies have pulled just so that way they could stay in business. And to tell you the truth, from what I've seen from the articles, they think that manga is actually helping their business. It actually isn't. If anything, it's actually taking their sales away. It's actually dominating them as we speak. Like, I've even said it in my other videos that I've talked about Marvel and DC, that I feel as if manga is going to be the new comics. Like they're going to be the new. It's going to be the new demographic where instead of people reading about superheroes and stuff from Western comics, it's now just going to be stuff from Japan, and that's the way I look at it. And some people can disagree, and that's fine. But personally, I think that this is going to be the new avenue for people to find more stuff to read, and I like that this is actually doing really well because I myself have waited for the day for manga to actually conquer Western comics. Because to tell you the truth, one of the reasons why I stopped collecting comic books or stopped reading superhero comics as a whole is because I felt that the books were not improving. Like every single run was basically there was no change, there was no nothing. Like every single run, it didn't matter what artist or writer had the book, it didn't matter which character they had, it was still shit. It was still not improving. Like I read a lot of Spider-Man when I was reading Marvel. I was reading a lot of Spider-Man, and Dan Slott, I got tired of him writing it, and then when Nick Spencer, I actually read a little bit of that run. Uh, Still wasn't good. Even though the first few issues of Nick Spencer's one were good, but the rest of it was just stale throughout the whole book. So it's just I think the main issue with Marvel and DC is that the fact that they just decided to go full SJW, and their staff, like their comic pros that are involved in the business, like the people they hire at Marvel and DC, they're just so disconnected with their fans. And that's the other thing. They're just disconnected with their fans, like I've mentioned many times in previous videos. They're just so disconnected that they just lost sight of what made them artists and writers in the first place and what got them in comics was because people actually liked their shit. Now they don't like their shit because their books are horrible. And that's why the sales for Marvel and DC have shrunk significantly because nobody cares about their books anymore. Now, mind you, people may say, yeah, but we still see hope in superhero books, and we still see hope in that. But honestly, to tell you the truth, that's everybody else's opinion, and you guys can still click comics even if they still do this. But personally, I really don't see any hope for Marvel and DC. If they're gonna keep doing SJW and they're still gonna hire people to the shit on their fandoms, I don't really see it really improving. If anything, it's actually what's gonna kill their business. And I love how comic pros like to shrug this off, where manga is going to help our business. We're improving. The sales are improving. It's like, no, it isn't actually. Manga is actually kicking your ass. You guys just don't see it because you're not realizing that your books are shit and your sales are doing horrible. And the only reason why that's horrible is because of manga. And I love My Hero. I'm a big My Hero Academia fan. I love this series. I've read a little bit of the manga. I think it's really good. But I'll tell you that I've actually have never read a really good superhero book in a long time, and My Hero is probably one of the best ones. And some people can say, yeah, but there's other good books out there. But personally, for me, My Hero Academia is like a really good book based on superheroes. If anything, and it kind of goes what Yellow Flash was saying about My Hero, was that it's basically like the X-Men with mutants. It is. It's just like the X-Men. In a sense, it really is. But I feel like the book is actually better than what Marvel's doing with X-Men right now. Because if anything, they haven't done really anything with X-Men. They only, if anything, from my understanding, the only time they've actually done a really good X-Men book was probably when Bendis was writing it. And I'm usually kind of on and off with Brian Michael Bendis when he writes books, but usually, sometimes he can write some good, solid books. But his run on X-Men was pretty solid, especially when he did All New X-Men. Still was pretty good. I think after that, he was just shit. I think that once he started working at DC and he started writing Superman, that's when he just got like worse and worse and worse. I think it's because he's been doing it for so many years that I think he's just kind of lost his touch. I think, but that's just me. But besides that, My Hero, in my opinion, is actually a better superhero book or a better representation of superheroes than what these companies are pulling out. Because the fact is, Marvel and DC, I think that the fact that they keep doing this shit where they keep hiring people that are so distant from their fans, and people that have been there that do the same thing where they're so distant from their fans that it's just not good for them. If anything, it's actually what's killing their comic sales. But honestly, the way I look at this is that I hope this should be a wake up call to Marvel and DC and every other company out there, and obviously they're not doing so well either. I mean, DC Comics is at the point where AT&T might sell them, and it wouldn't surprise me if they did. If they start deciding to sell DC Comics, and if they start doing that, then that's what they should. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if they started doing that. Sorry for the stuttering. And same with Marvel. Even though Marvel's different because they're owned by Disney, so Disney can do whatever they want, and even Disney doesn't care about their fans either. If anything, they're more concerned about profit shares and what sells or anything. So if anything, they don't care what happens with Marvel with their comic books as well. I mean, if you take a look at some of the stuff they brought out, like with Star Wars, like stuff that Disney owns besides Marvel, Marvel brought out a whole bunch of Star Wars books, and I've read the first run on Star Wars, the one with I think it's by Charles Soule, I think that's his name. The first Star Wars run, it was okay, but I think after that I never read anything Star Wars. Even though I love Star Wars, I'm not a big fan of the movies, but I'm just saying that I'm not a big fan of the comics. But getting on topic here, so that's another example on why Marvel is not really doing so well in that sort of way, is because just Disney doesn't really care what they bring out as far as they're concerned. They rather just bring out a product and see if it sells. But in the end, the shit they're bringing out isn't really appealing to anyone. You know, even people that have spent millions of dollars on buying so many books every month that it's like they just don't care about what they bring out anymore. To them, it's a waste. And it's a shame because it used to be a hobby where everybody can go and pick up a bunch of books and people would enjoy reading a comic now. Now it's like they're just bringing out garbage. They're now bringing out stuff that it's all political and doesn't make any sense. It doesn't have anything to do with that certain character, or at least make it seem like it's evolving or anything. And that's also another reason why I love manga so much, is because I like that every story, everything that every character deals with, like especially I'll give you another example, like because I'm not a big fan of this manga, and I know people are gonna say, oh, you don't like this character. Like I recently read Naruto. Now, mind you, I'm not the biggest Naruto fan, but I read the manga for Naruto, and I thought the manga for Naruto was actually pretty good. It lacks with exposition, but it's still a pretty good book. I read it, and I have to say, it's the struggles that Naruto and his friends go through is just I can relate to that, and same with the other mangas like My Hero and One Piece and Fairy Tail. I can think of so many mangas that I've read that I really think that I can relate to the struggles with all these characters, and I think that's what should be presented in comics, because it used to be like that with Western comics and superhero books. It used to be where they would deal with that sort of thing. Now they don't. They don't do that anymore. It's all based on what the writer or artist thinks and what these comic pros think about their fans when they attack them on Twitter. It's all about that now. It's not about it's not about telling a good story and bringing out the joy in fans. It's not about that anymore. And I think that's why the Japanese, they do so well with that, because they know what sells. They know how to tell a story. They know what everybody likes. So in that way, that's why manga always does well. And then this is a good example of this. This here is a good example of that. That's why they've been doing so well these past few years, because of the fact that it just gets so many people, and even people that have grew up with manga. Like I grew up reading manga. I love Shonen Jump. I probably read manga since I was like 10 years old, right? I've been a big fan ever since. I'm still a big fan. I love anime and manga. You know what I mean? I love it more than superhero comics, but again, that's just me. But I'm just saying to get my point across that this is an example on why the manga industry or why the Japanese are doing so well with their books is because of that. Because of the themes that they deal with and how they write their characters and their stories. And that's why I really love it so much. Because every book that I read, that whenever Shonen Jump brings out or any publisher from Japan brings out, it's just personally I really can relate to those stories, and I love their storytelling. I think that these guys are wonderful storytellers, and I think that they need to still keep doing that because I think that the more people start to understand their stories and actually love their stories, the more the popularity is going to grow, and I think it's going to keep growing. But that's just what I think of it. But regardless, this is an example on why the comic book industry is getting kicked because of this, and it's just going to get dominated. Um, so honestly, personally, this is just an embarrassment to Marvel and DC in the way that they're publishing their comics. And I know I may be repeating myself by saying the same thing. I apologize, but it's just should be just a wake up call because Marvel and DC is not doing so well with their fans and the way that they obviously the way they mistreat them and then the way that they bring out their books. But yeah, so tell me what you guys thoughts on this. I really would like to know what you think about uh, the comic book industry and what do you think about this and the list of manga beating the shit out of the comics. Like I really like to know what you guys think about this. Tell me what you guys think in the comment section. I really would like to know. Please like and subscribe. If you like the video, just like the video. That's fine. I hope to see you guys in the next video. Take care, guys.